Now let's turn our attention to Scotland now, where the SNP has survived a no-confidence vote. And the leader of Scottish Labour, Anna Sarwar, tabled the motion after a power-sharing deal between the SNP and the Greens collapsed. But it seems now that the gamble hasn't paid off. Well, let's cross now to GB News' Scotland reporter Tony Maguire, who's at Holyrood. So, Tony, welcome to the show. It seems the SNP dodged the noose. They survived to fight on another day.
Indeed, good afternoon, Martin. Well, certainly it's something of a distraction on a road of distractions while we await the next two candidates to replace Humza Yousaf. Or it could be more than two candidates, who knows. Certainly there's two names hot in contention right now, that being, of course, being Kate Forbes and Nicola Sturgeon's own deputy, First Minister John Swinney. Now, today's vote of no confidence was one of two. Obviously, Douglas Ross pulled his vote yesterday in light of Humza Yousaf's resignation on Monday, but Anas Sarwar carried on with the vote of confidence against the entire Scottish Government. Had he been successful, well, we'd be barrelling on our way towards a Scottish election, perhaps even before a Westminster election, and that was not to be. In fact, about 30 minutes it took for the debate to take place. We heard from Scottish Conservative leader Douglas Ross, who got himself a little bit of a telling off by Presiding Officer Alison Johnson. And then we also heard, of course, from Anas Sarwar. We heard from Patrick Harvey, leader of the Greens, who ultimately voted in favour of keeping the Scottish Government where it is right now. And so they might, because, of course, the Scottish Greens, they're pro-independence, as are the SNP, and it serves them certainly to keep a pro-independence party in government, at least for the next couple of years. Needless to say, Kate Forbes, well, she wasn't wanting to talk to the press. She made quite a beeline through the press pack, quite expertly, if I might say so. But John Swinney, well, he did sit and talk to the press for a little while. Here's what he had to say about his race so far.
I have to be very, very careful about my family circumstances, so I will not be rushed into making decisions that affect my loved ones. And it's a big step for me to take, so please give me the time.
Is it a standoff, Mr. Swinney?
Oh, it's not in any shape or form. I would describe that. It's about people taking the time to make the right decisions for those they love. Thank you very much.
A very, very short couple of words there from John Swinney. And of course, we still don't have any definite names in the pot. Certainly, we're going to have to stay tuned to Scotland and what happens over the next few days until we finally get our candidates.
Thank you, Tony Maguire, live from Holyrood. And let's also speak now to the freelance columnist Alastair Stewart. Alastair, welcome to the show. So the SNP survived to fight on another day. The big question now is who will be the successor to Humza Yousaf? Will it be the continuity candidate and John Swinney, or can we expect a surprise? And people in Scotland that we've been speaking to over the past few weeks and days, they're crying out for change to get away from this woke agenda of gender identity politics, of hate crime, of net zero. Do you think we might see a return to common sense, or can we expect more of the same?
I think it's going to be more of the same in either eventuality. John Swinney was formerly the right-hand man of Nicola Sturgeon, and Kate Forbes, who's also allegedly in the running, was her protege. You're going to get more of the same either way. The real question here is, how are we going to assuage the Scottish Green Party? Because once again, they demonstrated by voting against the motion today that they're really holding the strings with the future of the SNP at Holyrood, and they're deciding the agenda of the independence movement. It's up to the opposition parties to realise that, because the best candidate for them that the SNP could put forward is Kate Forbes. She's still a divisive figure for the left. Patrick Harvey, the leader of the Scottish Greens today, came out and said that the next leader will have to work on a centre-left agenda. She is quite right of the SNP. It's all to play for at the moment, but in either eventuality, there's going to be much more of the same until we can push on to the next election in Scotland in 2026. And the only people who suffer in the meantime are the electorate, who are needing real answers to extraordinarily difficult policy issues facing the country. And the SNP has been lagging on providing solutions for that.
Do you think the membership might get a say in this? If it goes on longer, they might prefer to go for somebody like Kate Forbes if she puts her hat in the ring, because she is more critical of the gender stuff. She's more critical of the obsession with identity politics. She seems to be more mainstream, which is certainly what we're hearing from the voters. Or will it be a smaller decision taken by the top brass, which would favour surely John Swinney?
I think you're seeing a real divide now. There's a real cleavage between the membership of the SNP and the political party at Westminster and at Holyrood itself. The membership, the experiment of Humza Yousaf has failed. He was a younger candidate. He was a career politician. He's resigned because of a situation that he himself created. Kate Forbes is comparatively also quite inexperienced in government. She's held some senior briefs, but is inexperienced by contrast. John Swinney has been at the top of the SNP poll for the last 17 years of them in government and the last 30 years of them being leading on the Holyrood agenda and campaigning for it in the first place. It depends on what the mood of the party is. They're going to lean into nostalgia to get them over the hill, and that's going to require Mr. Swinney to have a real appetite to lead beyond 2026, and at the moment he seems on the fence. But also Kate Forbes is a gamble in the same way that Humza Yousaf was a gamble, and they might not be in the mood for that given how things have unfolded over the last week.
Okay, well, let's see how it pans out. John Swinney is currently the bookies favourite at 6-4. Kate Forbes, meanwhile, on the inside rail at 4-1. Alastair Stewart, thanks for joining us on the show. Always a delight.